Welcome to the Guilty Party.
All right, guys, welcome to the first ever The Guilty Party podcast. This is episode 1, and I am your co-host, Mr. Micah Labrosse, along with my good friend, Mr. Patrick Madsen.
Hello.
So we've never done a podcast before. I guess we should kind of start on why we wanted to do this.
Yeah, this podcast really intrigued me. For those who don't know, this is Patrick Madsen, married to the beautiful Susie Madsen, aka Zana. I was really intrigued when Micah brought this to me to do this podcast, and I love the premise behind it, the Guilty Party. And why I want to personally do this podcast is I got a lot to say. I got a lot of opinions. Everybody's got them, and we just wanted to broadcast our voices and let the viewer get to know us better, and also give you some food for thought from our angles. And the reason I really love this premise of this podcast, The Guilty Party, is just the prime fact that throughout our experiences, Micah's and mine, we have felt like we were damned if we do and damned if we don't on any angle that we stand on. When we tried to keep it safe, we got flack, and then when we act ourselves, we get flacked. And yeah, and I just feel like it's more appropriate than ever to have a voice and be confident behind that voice. So with all that being said, welcome to the Guilty Party podcast, where no matter what angle we picked, somebody will be pissed off.
And if they're not, we're not doing our job right.
Exactly. So I don't know where we start. We've never done this before. We honestly don't know what we're doing, but we're going to do it, and we're going to learn on the way. And this is episode 1. So log this, screenshot it, save it, whatever, because we're going to do plenty more of these.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So I think it might be a good thing to start on that I'm sure everyone is going through right now is this insane corona business, COVID-19, however you want to say it. I think it'd be a good idea. Let's talk about like how it's affecting us. We've been touring musicians for God knows how many years. Bands across the spectrum are experiencing this and having no idea what to plan for. It's not when we'll go back to touring our music. It's if.
Yeah.
Not including that, it's, including, what do I do with, when I'm home? If you got one side of the spectrum where you've got some people where they're not sure how they're going to make ends meet because, music is their livelihood, and that's cut off a huge opportunity for them. On the other hand, you've got, other people that can do side stuff, but then it's like, okay, well, how's it affecting me, my household, my family while I'm home in my town, my region, along with, am I ever going to go back to a way of normalcy of going back to touring, going back to being with, my friends in the industry, going to playing music, my passion and my love.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about me and Micah's perspectives is we live in the one state of Texas, the greatest state, in my opinion. And
amen.
And we live in different spectrums of it. So I'm from the San Antonio area, and Micah's from the
Fort Worth area.
Yeah, so we are separated from about a 4-hour drive, but also culturally separated, in my opinion. I feel like if you go to San Antonio, it's a different culture down there, and it's a different culture up here, in my opinion.
It definitely is, yeah.
And so with that comes different examples or different just walks of life during this one crazy time that we're all sharing, which is the pandemic that we know of, COVID-19. And so my first question to Micah is, dude, do you remember February?
Dude, February was the most insane month I've experienced in probably forever. So background on February, Beck and I, this is what's crazy about this entire thing. We planned for the last 6 months to go to Italy for our anniversary.
And Becca's your wife, just
Becca
for the
is, yeah, let me clarify. Yeah. She's not my mistress or my girlfriend. She is my beautiful wife, who I love very dearly. Anyway, so our anniversary isn't until May, actually. But we decided, well, hey, she found this crazy deal on wherever she found this deal on flights to Italy. So we're like, okay, well, let's just go in February. That's when the deal is. Let's do it. So fast forward, we fly to Italy. We spend 10 days there. It's amazing. Great Italian wine, Italian food was incredible. I mean, you went to Rome for your honeymoon, right?
Sure did.
Yeah. So I went to all these different cities, and that was right on the brink of when COVID-19 was starting out. Everyone wasn't sure what was going on. It was starting to hit some of these different places in Europe, and I don't think it even hit the US yet. And so what's crazy about this, and this is 100%, this is why I believe that God had us, there for a reason. During that time period, 2 days before we were supposed to fly back, we were going to go to Venice. And we're like, okay, you know what? We're kind of tired. We want to just go back and chill. I don't want to have to drive, 6 to 8 hours to get there, spend just one night there, and then drive, I think it was like 6 to 10 hours back, something stupid like that. We decided we're just going to go back to Rome. We're going to spend 2 days in Rome, just on the coast, just chill out in a different Airbnb. So we canceled our Airbnb in Venice. The last night that we're there, we found out that the first case had hit in Venice and had hit like a day before we were supposed to go there. We didn't know this while we were in Italy because we hadn't been paying attention to our phones and the news. Like, that's crazy. We get on our flight, of course we're asked, have you been to Wuhan, China, or something, or wherever it was supposed to be? We're like, no, we haven't. We'd just seen an increase in security having to do with COVID-19.
So y'all were asked this? Y'all were asked,
We were
have
asked
you been
this.
there?
They were trying to find out if they were trying to trick us to see if we actually been there.
Oh, wow.
So they're asking us about our trip, if we had a good time, and then nonchalantly they'd be like, yeah, so when was your last trip from China? And we're like, never. We've never been to China, and we haven't been definitely in the last 6 months. So they're trying all sorts of new techniques to make sure like they catch people who have been in that area because they're trying to contain the virus.
So at this time, when they're asking you this question, obviously not as been glorified as it is now. So you're caught off guard.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
What's going on? And so like from then on, like that's like when Beck and I started getting back on social media, looking at the news and seeing that this stuff is increasing, it's getting crazy. So now everyone's starting to get paranoid. I mean, we're on the flight and you see people looking at Asian. I'm sorry to say this, but they're looking at Asians like, okay, well, are these guys from China? They're stereotyping.
Yeah, they don't know what to think.
But it's like, anything else. It'd be the same thing if, whites were the carrier of this. They'd be like, oh, is that white dude? Where did he come from? I'd be doing the same thing. Anyway, so we're spending the rest of the trip, not sure what's going on, not sure the severity of this. So this is where it gets crazy. We get back, and I think 3 or 4 days later, they locked down Venice completely because it was so overrun with COVID-19.
So y'all,
if
like
we
4
had
days.
gotten there, we definitely would have come back with the virus.
That's so crazy to think about. In February, you were in the hardest hit region that we know as of today, and you were there 4 days prior until a lockdown in Venice. Like that's insane.
I mean, God definitely was like, yeah, I don't think you guys want to go there. We're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some people that have been with the lockdown stuck over there. I've seen a couple articles where the travel bans were put in place, and again, when I say articles on this on this podcast, you never know. Who can you trust in the media nowadays,
exactly.
Right? But what we do know is that obviously there's a pandemic, and that the research is showing that Italy has been hit the hardest. And you were there in the month of February and 4 days prior to a lockdown in Venice. That is mind-blowing.
It's insane because the minute we got back, we found that. I was like, babe, if we had gone, who knows what would happen? Maybe they would have locked down sooner from events, unseen, or we would have come back and infected, not only, our son, but, other people that we love. And it's like, who knows what would have happened? And it's crazy, like how much connection that we've had to that area. Cause like, okay, we came back from Italy, and then my job, one of our biggest clients that we work with, their headquarters is in Milan. And so I'm corresponding with guys over there, and they're almost starting to get locked down too. Cause I think they got hit the second hardest than Venice. And it's just crazy, like how that happened within a month. So when you talk about how was February, bro, I insane.
Well, it's just crazy to just remember February because a lot of this was folklore and superstition almost, like
Oh, yeah.
when it came out, and I can remember, so I was in America while Micah was over in Italy, and I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and, it was a lot, and it still is, a lot of just misinformation and curiosity with no concrete answers. And so being in San Antonio during this entire thing, you saw a lot of people that were just on different ends of the spectrum and still to this day on different ends of the spectrum. So what I saw in February, also mind you, for the listener listening to this, Micah and I had a tour planned in our band. And so we, we're planning on going on that tour. Everyone's living normal day life at this point in February, but we start to hear of this new virus. Mind you, briefly before this, a lot of people were dying and going through the flu. So when we hear about this new virus that's flu-like symptoms, but now it's got some mutations in it, everyone's like, okay, stop the fear pandemonium. And that was definitely the consensus in my region. Well, as the days went forward and it started to get closer to March, you started seeing one other person wear a mask. You started seeing groups of people wearing masks. And then you started seeing people in the grocery stores damn near wearing just full hazmat suits. I mean, dude, like the pictures that I've seen online nationwide are completely accurate of what was happening in San Antonio.
Yeah.
No one knew what to think. And so you got people wearing trash bags and just covering themselves like the Michelin Man, showing up to grocery shop, right? Well, my area in San Antonio, just as much as nationwide, was hit by the TP impulse buy.
Oh my goodness. This was so insane. I still do not, to this day, understand why people were doing this.
Why was that the number one thing gone? It wasn't canned foods. It wasn't non-perishables. It was TP. Bro, you have a shower.
It hit yeah, exactly.
Right?
It hit in waves because it was the TP first. Then next, it was canned food, which I guess makes sense. And then the third thing, which pissed me off, was all the meat was gone.
The meat, yeah.
I'm like, guys, I'm just doing my normal grocery shopping because I know, like, I've got a sense of, I don't even know, like, normalcy. Like, I know the stores are going to replenish. You're going to wipe everything out, and then the stores are going to come back in 2 weeks and replenish everything. So what's the point?
Well, something that I will say, and not to piss you off further, but this is absolutely true. I live in an apartment complex. Yeah, I'm not rich. What's up? Come at me. So I go to take my trash out like a normal person, and after all this impulse buying of specifically meat, I go to my dumpster and it's filled, right? But one thing I see in there is just wasted, packaged still meat. Like you would see in the deli area. Now, I'm not talking about the rolled up tubes, that they put. I'm talking about like the actual fresh meat. And you see a bunch of those just thrown away because they're expired. So people just went out and impulse bought meat that they didn't even eat, And I'm a rhymer, so what's up? No, I'm just kidding. But that was absolutely true. And so I go to, and I was disgusted to see that because I myself was trying to find meat, couldn't find it. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't imagine who else was trying in my same shoes to buy some meat. And this dude or this woman just bought this and now threw it away because obviously they overbought, right? So that was one thing I noticed in my area too. Now, I'm not trying to put on blast my area. I have seen nationwide and also many articles and videos of a lot of people overbuying produce, overbuying meats and stuff. And then these dumps showing you what they're,
it's crazy
what they're putting away. And it was, that part was like, okay, America, come on now, right? You're obviously not looking out for your neighbor.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a little bit of selfishness here. And, but this is February that we're talking about here. So now that the pandemic's in full force, what's your life been like since this has hit full bore?
Quarantine has been very interesting because you've got two sides as the spectrum when you're living in quarantine. One, you either want to stay at home because your first thing is protect your family and you want to make sure that they're staying safe by you not going as much as possible. At the same time, it's very easy to get stir crazy and then you want to go out and do things. You're like, well, I'm not sure. That's not going to hit me. I'll be fine. So for me, like once I think it was probably a couple weeks before the quarantine hit, I don't know if you remember, but there was all those fake voicemails going around. Somebody's friend in the FBI, somebody's neighbor whose wife, works for the government, was like, they're going to do a whole national, lockdown. Like, you can't leave your homes for 2 weeks or a month, something like that. So I was getting all those. I personally didn't believe it, just because it's like, that's a little too convenient. When they do stuff like that, they're very hush-hush. They're not going to tell anyone. So probably 2 weeks before the lockdown, I had already started working from home. I had just done that just as a precaution because, one, my wife, she works, for those of you who don't know, she's an EMT, about to become a medic. And I just didn't want to be the reason why I got my entire office, infected with the virus. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I want to do my
What are you
duties.
left to think, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Better safe than sorry, in my opinion. The best saying my dad ever always taught me was, when he was in the Air Force, is plan for the worst and hope for the best. So that's what I live by. So I started working from home for 2 weeks. I tried as much as possible to only, go grocery shopping when absolutely necessary, which was difficult. So this is one thing that kind of irritated me about this pandemic is they tell you you're supposed to only go out for what's necessary. But if you go to the grocery store and everyone has bought everything in a panic, you have to go to multiple places. So by that, therefore, you're going to automatically go to more people, have more interactions, so have more possibilities of getting infected with the virus. So that was that. I was just trying to make sure I have a sense of normalcy. So my biggest thing was try to keep busy, because you're home during the day. And then after that, like, I've got this whole evening for, the whole week. And then I've got the weekend. What do I do to stay busy? So one thing that I started doing is I started rebuilding and redoing my studio, which this is where we're actually recording this right now for the first episode.
And it looks awesome, dude. It really does.
I appreciate that. Yeah. It took me a good while because I started just repainting the walls, doing some stuff on the ceiling, and then
I think when I walked in here last time, it was just framed, wasn't it? Or it was just...
It was the same walls, but it only had this one light above us, and it didn't have any recessed lighting. I kind of redid the floors just a little bit, started putting all sorts of stuff.
We'll soon put up videos too, so you can start seeing this, but we're starting with the audio format for now.
Yeah. So all that to say, like, I needed to find stuff to stay busy because I didn't want to end up like everyone else where they got bored, like, okay, this COVID is nonsense. Let me just go out and live like normal, even though with this quarantine hit. So all that, and then about 2-3 weeks later is when the quarantine in Fort Worth hit. So our quarantine is different than every other county in Texas. So, like, right now, if you go to Dallas County, you'll get fined if you don't have a mask.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So when I went to go pick up parts for my job, I didn't have any masks on me, and they made me wait outside to fill out paperwork to pick up the parts. Fort Worth, they haven't required that yet. But anyway, so when this quarantine hit, that was, I think, for the most state of Texas, I think the 1st of March, something like that.
I want to say around March 20th is when it went full bore.
Maybe,
yeah.
Wow, these months have
Who
flown
knows,
by.
bro? Who knows? Who's counting days?
Anyway, so, I mean, this quarantine's been in place since sometime in March. It is now May 6th, something like that. So it's been almost a month and a half, almost 2 months. So main thing for me that I've been doing is staying busy, making sure I'm, spending good time with, my family, my wife, and my son. And then we still are visiting my family and her family some. But I've also, in the back of my head, made sure, like, hey, we're keeping this under 10 people. We're still trying to keep it, under the precautions like that the state of Texas has given us. So I don't know, how's it been for you during this quarantine?
Well, so I'm in a little bit of a different boat, as you know. I don't have a kid. Me and my wife, newlyweds. We met on tour. We're both musicians, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm a free thinker. And obviously, you know me, Micah, so you can confirm that.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We've had many a free thinking talk.
Free thinker is a mild way to put it. But I had a different approach going into this. So for a lot of you that don't know, I went into this pandemic. February is a very tough month for me. It was a month of recognizing that I was depressed. I weighed about 250 pounds at the time. I shaved my head. I used to have long hair. Just went through this really, really tough time before this pandemic happened. So when this happened and I started hearing that there was going to be a lockdown, started seeing people getting laid off, it became really real, really fast, especially in my area, especially nationwide with the people that reached out to me, the people that I keep up with. And when I started seeing that people got laid off, I started seeing my father, who owns a very successful construction business, take a huge hit. It got really real. So I knew I needed to put up or shut up, basically.
Yep.
So I told myself, it's like, man, you need to turn it around, because the version of yourself is so bad right now. You're going to go in this pandemic, you might not make it out, And God rest those souls that hadn't made it out of this, And so I had a different approach. I was like, man, if I have to stay in, it's not going to be good. I'm already not good, and I didn't have to stay in. So I had a different approach. I was just like, I'm not going to live in fear of this. Also, for a lot of people that don't know, I'm not, and I don't want to start the vaccine war here.
We'll save that for the conspiracy.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, exactly. I'll tell you that I haven't been vaccinated, and I've barely been sick in my life. I've built up immunities. I watch old VHS tapes of me as a kid, and I was always outside getting dirty, playing and stuff. So I'm a firm believer that I've built up these immunities. And to further state that, every year my family goes down to Las Vegas for Christmas. My sister is kind of like, it's tradition. We always just celebrate it with her. It's the one time a year I can kind of see her. Right. And so we go down to Vegas, and it's almost like a weird thing. But one year we brought one of my dad's friends, and he had the flu. And everyone gets wrecked in the house, bro. Just the worst flu, coming out both ends type thing, bro. I'm the only one in the house that doesn't get sick. This happens the next year. We don't bring his friend, And
we're gonna leave that dude behind.
But for some, we go out and we're in the restaurants and everything, and everybody gets sick again. Everybody in the house, but me, Mr. Unvaccinated over here. Now, I'm not making a case like you shouldn't get vaccinated, you shouldn't. I'm just saying I never did, and I'm good, right?
Yeah.
So I've always felt like I had a high immune system, so I wasn't gonna live in fear from this whole thing. So I went out. I've been doing a lot of fitness. I lost 30 pounds during this pandemic. I lost 10% body fat during this pandemic.
And I have to say, like, I saw Pat, when was the last time I saw you? Was it right after, did you come up before, or right after the last Germany show?
Yeah, I did, actually.
I think you came
December or January, I want to say.
Yeah, you came up to January. I forget why. Anyway.
No, we had a tour that got canceled, remember? And I picked you up. Yeah.
So you came up late January because we were going to do the tour. We got maybe an hour out and then got canceled. Anyway, so that was the last time I saw Pat. And so fast forward to April when I saw you again. And way different Pat than I saw before. You lost 30, 40 pounds, whatever it is. I mean, you could look jacked, you look ripped.
A little tighter.
A little tighter.
A little tighter. Yeah. But not only like physically, man, but mentally, right? It's the mental rewards from what I've done is I was mentally unhealthy going into this pandemic, and during it, I've become mentally healthy. So it's like you have a choice during things like this. You can either find a way to crumble, or you can find a way to make anything a benefit. And I chose the latter on that one, and I found it. And I'm really happy to say it. And we're still in the midst of this whole thing. But so, what it's been like for me has actually been really beneficial in a couple aspects. Definitely mental health and definitely physically. But also my marriage is so much stronger. My relationships with all my friends, I'm making more time for them. My sobriety is a lot better. Literally all aspects of my life. So I've turned this around to make it beneficial. But what I will say is in my particular area during this entire pandemic, and I want to say since March 20th to present day, San Antonio is like every day, it's like you don't know where it's going to go. And there's certain parts that are great, and there's certain parts that are not, even on a good day, right? Right. But what I have seen in the general consensus is a lack of absolute respect for humans. So, I do a lot of cardio.
Do we need to move this to our segment, Real Talk, homie?
Yeah, well, I mean that's coming.
Okay,
Real Talk.
We'll wait that. That's a different segment.
This whole podcast is a Real Talk, homie, man. That's the one thing is like I do a lot of cardio, and for side work I've been doing the Instacart life and stuff, and so it's been cool to be in the public and kind of just see how people are reacting. Well, now I have a dash cam, and there's a really good reason for that. It's because some of the stuff I've seen and don't have time to pull out my phone has just been horrendous, I watched a dude get clocked trying to buy a lot of products at a store, and I don't want to name the store in specifics because allegedly you got clocked. I'm no snitch. And, so I saw a couple of things that made me really cautious and stuff. But yeah, the one thing I can say is definitely hostility in the air is a real thing right now. There's a lack of respect for people. Everyone looks at each other as a threat. Oh, he could have it. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't have it, oh, he could be asymptomatic.
And it's not even just a threat, because like there's different types of threats. To me, that was like a threat to survival. Because when you think about it, it's not just like, hey, this person's going to get me. This person's going to get me whoever I love the most. That's I hope that's how they view it. Maybe they think it even worse than that. Yeah. But to me, I try not to think that of people, but I'm sure that's the consensus going around is it's not just a threat towards me. It's not some dude with a gun who's trying to kill me and end my life. It's someone who's going to do something to me and then going to infect the rest of my family. And then I may see my son, my elderly, grandmother die because of some dude who decided he was going to think he was going to be a badass and do something stupid.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the problem. The problem is that there's so much misinformation out there with this whole COVID thing. Not only misinformation, but because misinformation is an opinion, right? But there's such conflicting information out there. You see an article that states the exact opposite of this article, and now we can't even trust our own CDC, who we now know is in bed with China. We now know that the CDC I'm saying the CDC, the World Health Organization. I'm so sorry. Let me back up.
WHO.
The WHO. We can't even trust our WHO, man. We can't even, because now we know they're in bed with China. Now we know that they accept donations from Bill and Melinda Gates, upwards of plus 500 million. These are all confirmed things that you can go yourself and look up, and they're documented. And it's like, okay, so these people obviously do what is in the best interest of their shareholders, right? They don't do what's in the best interest of the citizens and stuff. They have shareholders to listen to, and sometimes that goes against humanity because you have to adhere to what they say. And we're actually we're actually exposing this, but we're also, our eyes are open more than ever to the corruption that's happening. And we all know, and if you don't, you've been living under a rock, but we all know since the days of, even before, but the days of MK Ultra, Operation Midnight Climax, dude, we know our government has tried some shady shit out there. We know it, and those documents we happen to get our hands on. But a lot of people died for us to access those information that we now know is true. And so it's not to say that, our government's corrupt, man. Our government, our nation, we have enemies, okay? And if you don't know that, I'm so sorry. But we also have enemies in our own state or in our own country. We have people here that want to see the country burn, right? And that's why you got these satirical articles out there. That's why you got these people that just want to see anarchy rise. And bro, what happened to Antifa, right? Where are they at during this whole thing? I thought you loved America, right? You were standing up for it, right? You're nowhere to be found right now. You probably got the mask on, but we wore masks before they were cool, right? I mean, dude, there's just so much information out there. So my whole point of that is, what does that cause, right? That only causes division. When no one can find an ultimate answer, no one can find anywhere to look to, no one can trust now our own mainstream media. One of my main sources of information is Fox News. No, I'm just kidding. I had to put that out there. I guarantee you people were like, oh, these guys are like Fox News people. No, I'm a free thinker, which means I look up my own shit. But no, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of scientists. I research my own things. And the one thing I'm seeing is a division even in doctors, a division even in...
Oh yeah. I mean,
let's just start with doctors.
We
right?
both. Well, I mean, and I'll get to that. We both really love to listen to Joe Rogan, which I appreciate that he's able to bring on, different walks of life, from doctors to scientists to politicians to celebrities. But some of the things that I've seen that even in the last 6 months, not directly tied to COVID-19, but to other, scientific discoveries and whatnot, that a lot of times the scientific community just can't even agree on things. And I've been seeing that a lot lately. For instance, and this is probably a good time to bring it up. I'm sure everyone has been seeing. Today I think is May 6th, so everyone's been seeing that YouTube video has been passed around called Pandemic, I think.
Oh, the Plandemic.
Plandemic,
Yeah.
yes. And here's the thing about that: is someone posts that, and because it gets taken down or reposted, everyone automatically thinks it's the truth. And I'm like, hold on. Have you guys even looked at the sources of this? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying we're doing the same thing that we accuse other people of doing. We accuse all the different news sites, Fox News, MSNBC, all those guys. We see something like, wait a minute, that must be true. We're not even doing the due diligence. And if you look closely, you've got other scientific communities, other doctors, and other hospitals around the country saying, well, no, this thing that's been posted today, it's not even true because of X, Y, Z, and the list on the facts. But then you go on the other side, people that agree with this pandemic or plandemic video, you've got them agreeing to it, and they're listening to their X, Y, Z. So people can't even agree what should we agree on and what should we say is the truth.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think anyone really knows what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. No one knows what's going on. I mean, the globe doesn't even know what's going on. So, I mean, you got Nancy Pelosi tweeting to go to China and be in the streets before this happened. You got Trump that put the travel ban on. You saw his resistance. Of course, everyone loves to call him racist. So they're like, this is another opportunity to do so. So they call him racist for the travel ban. Well, then it turned out that was the right call, right? And then now people are going back on their word and they're like, oh, I don't know who to trust. I don't know who to trust. And so you have all this division. And it's just we were divided going into this, and we're so divided more now because we don't know who to trust. So now in the public eye, because when you get off Facebook and you log out of Facebook, or you turn off your TV and whatever news source you're watching, then you go into reality. And then you go into reality, and what do you see? Everybody divided and everybody looking at each other like, oh my God, you could kill me and my kids if I just touch you. So now I need to wear a mask. Now I need to wear these gloves. Now I need to wear this hazmat suit because I don't know who to trust. So I'm internally freaking out, and my exterior is going to show a shield because, I don't trust anything. And this is the best thing I know to do is cover myself, right?
And here's a perspective that I feel like that Christians have kind of leaned too much into, but this is how I feel. I'm going to go out and I'm going to be a decent human being to everyone I meet. I'm going to do my due diligence of the research that I've done to protect myself and my family. Whether that's wearing a mask or using the gloves or even not, whatever that is, that's on me. I'm also going to believe that God has my best intentions for me. And I still believe that God has a plan for everyone. So, and I probably going to catch some flack for this, but if it's your time to go, I believe, it's your time to go. If God wants you to protect you and, walk with you along this path to, whatever it's going, I think that's going to happen. And I believe that right now you've got the two sides. You've got the Christian side where I'm sure you've seen all the news articles of all these churches.
End of days, bro. It's the end of days.
We're like, well, Jesus is going to protect me, so I'm going to do whatever, and I'm going to disregard everything. No. Then you're not even listening to, and the Bible says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Definitely, you should at least listen to the guidelines. Some people know a lot more than you, idiot.
Yeah. Well, it's the same. That's the same Christian that goes, I don't need to pay my bills. God will do it for me. All I got to do is pray, right? I mean, it's the same exact logic.
Well, you'll be complaining and crying out to God, why?
And then you get angry at him. Why didn't he bless me and stuff? We see this stuff more than ever. And just to give you more context, we spent plenty of years, myself, 6 years in the Christian industry. How many for you? Probably the same amount of time. Yeah. I saw you around, filling in for different bands. So, I mean, we've been exposed to this, and
but all that to say, it's like people overthink things. But again, this is just how I feel. I'm gonna do the guidelines somewhat what's based over in my county, my state, which is Texas, which is the best state, and they've done the best thing so far. But I'm also going to have some faith that God's gonna lead us through this no matter what, and which I know is cliche to say, but at the same point, I think when people lose hope or faith, you don't have much else to go on. You're just going to go outside living in fear because you think someone's going to, infect you with COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever it is, and you're going to take it home and, infect the rest of your family, and someone's going to die.
Well, you're living in fear, and so it's a form of anxiety, and it makes you tense. And so when somebody comes over and they're being genuine, they don't even have to talk to you, or they're just by you, right? And then you project, because you're scared. You project, and I saw this, negativity, right, on that person. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, let's put an example that I saw, and I'm going to make up names. Joe screams at Gerald over here because he's not wearing a mask, but he walks up to him to scream in his face to do so. How is that helping anything, right? And so what follows next is the transfer of energy. You project your negative energy in this crazy time when everyone's anxiety filled and doesn't know the answers. And you go up to this guy and you scream at him, "Wear an effing mask," right? Mm-hmm. And you get clocked, bro. I'm not crying for you. I'm not sad for you. You just projected major negativity in a negative time. Walked up to a dude, broke social distancing rules just to scream at him to wear a mask through your mask.
See, that's the thing, is like, be a decent human being when you're going out. And stick to the guidelines. There's a reason why 6 feet.
Exactly.
I mean, if you get upset that some other dude, don't worry about him. If he ends up dying, that's not on you. You have one responsibility to you and your family. And if you're not sticking to that because you want to get your nose in someone else's business, mm-hmm. Bro, it's going to be a hard time for me to have some sympathy.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And we get it that you're angry. Everybody's angry during this time. What makes you so fucking special, right? And it's like, dude, you're going to walk up to a dude and you're going to scream at him. And, dude, I've seen this numerous times. And not just in San Antonio. And just so people know, I travel a lot. So I've been to Austin. I've been to Fort Worth to see Micah, Colorado. I haven't been tame during this time. Also, I'm absolutely 100% COVID clean. Me and my wife gets weekly lab tests and gets checked all the time because my wife, for those who don't know, is a kidney recipient and she has an autoimmune deficiency. So we make sure that she stays checked up on these things, because she wouldn't, have the best chance to fight it if it came down. And she was just recently in the hospital. And that spiked my anxiety, right? So I've been through all these beneficial things during this time, but then the wifey goes down for a kidney-related, type thing, and then that spikes my anxiety. And so I'm like, what if she has COVID? And then she didn't get it, and it's like, oh no, you're negative, you're fine. We're just testing for other things, and you're a kidney recipient, and so there's a lot more tests that you have to take, and that's totally fine. We're used to that. But, the anxiety in that 4 hours to get that test back was like, whoa, And I think in that 4 hours, what I experienced in that anxiety is what literally the globe is experiencing, because in that 4 hours, what did I not have? I didn't have answers. I didn't have anybody I could call to feel better, because no one knows the situation. No one knows even our own WHO, bro. They don't.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's funny that Susie went through that too, because early on in early April, Becca got sent home from work because the hospital that she contracts out. So, brief explanation: she works for a company which I probably shouldn't name, but they staff different staff at different hospitals, so they're contracted out. So they have a office over in Dallas. And they do, like, everyone who comes through, they take your temperature to make sure, you're not, super, super hot or whatever it is. Anyway, they took hers. It was above average. And they're like, you probably need to go home.
Ooh.
And so she calls me on the way home. She's like, hey, so they're sending me home because I've got above average temperature. It was like maybe half a degree to a degree.
But they ain't taking no chances, right?
No one's taking chances at this point, because again, this is early March. No one knows what's going on.
Yeah,
maybe early mid-March, something like that. And I'm like, wow, because I'm like, we don't. Again, this is the portion of no one really knows enough about this virus to know like how deadly this is. Mm-hmm. Some people are saying, okay, it's like a cold. Like most people get over it. Just you need to rest.
Well, also it doesn't help the fact that they're fabricating numbers, right? You go in and you die of a heart attack, and this has literally been confirmed. Doctors are coming out of the woodwork with this. They're classifying it as COVID numbers, right? And that's why that meme is so popular. Man gets eaten by shark, dies of COVID, right? It couldn't be more true in the logic that you're fabricating numbers. numbers, and it's already been confirmed. But also, what the Medicare grant that these places are getting.
Yeah, I've
right?
been reading about that.
So the Medicare grant is if you get a patient that is admitted to your hospital and they have COVID, it's a $13,000 grant that you're getting to assist. If they go on a ventilator, it turns into $36,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm getting that information from the Plandemic documentary that I did watch, but I did go research. And the numbers that I found were not exactly 13,000, but they were like 12,900, blah, 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 and 36, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can say, oh, it's not factual because it's not 13. I looked it up. Shit's pretty there, you know? And, but dude, you're getting that. So why would not fabricate the numbers so your hospital doesn't get more funding, right?
Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, she's coming home, and I'm like, I don't know enough about this to like know how I feel. Like, I'm like, okay, most people should recover. But at the same time, I've heard cases where people, especially in Texas, got it and died within a couple of days. And I'm like, holy crap, I may lose my wife. And the thing about this is because they've done so much testing early on, they didn't have as many testing kits. They're only going to test you if, one, you've got a larger fever or a higher fever for more than, I think, 3 or 4 days. Mm. So she's stuck at home for 3 or 4 days before she can get cleared. And I'm like, what if 2 days? I don't know enough about this virus. What if I wake up in 2 days and she's gone?
It leads you to think that, right?
Yeah. So
irrational thoughts.
The same thing you're experiencing 4 hours, I'm experiencing for 4 days that I've got no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So luckily, again, she's still here. She's alive, folks.
And she's doing just fine.
She's doing just fine. She's pregnant with our second child.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're having a baby girl.
Oh, yeah.
So all that to say, it's like this anxiety that I'm sure Americans are feeling right now, let alone Americans, I'm sure everyone across the world is experiencing, because I don't even want to think about like how bad people are experiencing this in Italy. When I was there, people are so close together. It's not like a house and then a few feet in the next house. This is like apartments upon apartments everywhere across Italy. So I can't even imagine how they're going through. But for us, like, I know that Americans are feeling what you and I felt, times 100 or whatever the number is. So it's a crazy time to be living right now. I mean, you've got different states doing crazy guidelines. I know up north they're doing some ridiculous stuff that even the president or some members of cabinet, someone's been saying like, hey, that's kind of overreach. I mean, heck, there was a salon owner here in Dallas. That was
right here.
Yeah. That she was arrested for opening up business a few days early. And here's the thing. It wasn't just her and employees. It was just her opening up. So she gets arrested, fined, and put in jail for, I think, a week. That happens. That was from a Dallas judge who went and issued that warrant or whatever it was. Then you have the governor and then the Attorney General of Texas. Both of those guys, they're like, this is overreach. You guys are being stupid. So Lieutenant, whatever his name is, the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, he issued the bond for that lady, and then they immediately released her from jail and go back to work.
Oh, so she has been released.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But the fact that we're having to live in times like this,
yeah,
and so I guess my point is like everyone in different regions are experiencing different types of terror. I'm not experiencing that because I don't live in Dallas County. I'm in Fort Worth, where it's a little more laid back.
And that's the same for me. Is like I don't live in San
Right.
Antonio. I live on the outskirts, right on a different county. So we have different rules. And so it's just like you. We're on the outskirts of the main city, but so they have in the main city different rules, but we get to live in a more lesser ruled type. Yeah, and it's a weird thing, right? Because you go into the city and you hear the horror stories from people in the city. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, is that happening in my city? It's like, no, you're in a different county.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, we are absolutely living in the craziest time we've ever lived in, right? This has never happened before.
It just gets worse. I mean, was it the killer hornets?
The murder hornets, bro. The murder hornets.
Disclaimer, we're not freaking out over every single thing.
No, hell no.
But at some point, you have to have, like, fine humor at something. You'll go nuts.
Dude, the murder hornets is so funny. Gosh, man. It's like one thing after another, right? And dude, I even read articles, bro, that were like, okay,
where'd you find those articles at?
Where do you find those articles, bro? Fox News. Fox News and CNN, those are my go-tos. No, I'm reading these articles that are like, And there's so many coming out in droves, right? So many, right?
Anyone with a computer is putting out a blog.
This is totally turned into a time for people to go, I need to make a profit so bad off of this, right? People make profits during war. People make profits during pandemics. We know this to be true now. But so I read another article, and this one's great, man. And sooner or later, we'll get better at this, and we can start pulling up these absolute facts, these absolute sources. And so the one I read is now that this virus, 6 feet might be too close, right? Let's divide people even farther and let's take it to 13 feet because now this virus can jump 13 feet. So now we have a jumping virus, bro. We got a virus that's like a freaking Ninja Mutant Turtle and is going to jump into me and kill my body. And you're going to tell me this shit wasn't man-made if it can do this? When in the time have we had a natural virus that can jump 13 feet, bro? You telling me that it wasn't
Here's my
designed?
only take on that it doesn't. Look, guaranteed no one going out to the stores, wherever you're going, is actually 6 feet. These aisles are barely, I think, 7-8 feet across. So if you're passing someone to go the other side of the chip aisle, you're not in 6 feet.
Yeah.
So really, honestly, I think it's just a luck of the draw. You got to hope and pray that the person you're with has been doing their due diligence and not just being a total butthole about stuff. And, we're just going to have to hope and see what happens next.
Well, and so this whole social distancing thing, all I see is, I'm not saying that this virus is fake. I'm not saying that that social distancing shouldn't be a thing.
No.
What I'm saying is that what we're dealing with all the misinformation out there, with all the conflicting reports, the doctors divided, the nation divided, there is something fishy here. This isn't black and white. This is going to take a lot of investigative research. And I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say that China is absolutely 100% full of shit. And that they're telling us their case numbers? No. Everyone needs to know one thing about China. The news that you're hearing out of China is government approved. It is not like the U.S. where I can post my opinion in a journal format, put it up, and somebody can post it the next day. You cannot do that in China. Mind you, before this pandemic was happening, what were they doing to their citizens? Do you know? They were shooting them down in the streets of Hong Kong, bro.
That I didn't know about.
Shooting, dude, I will show you some videos that are horrific, Also, I have a friend that was there doing some bank trading. He's a really good friend of mine named Andy. I'd love to get him on this podcast, but he was there about a month prior, but he was also there during the protests doing some bank trading in China, and he got out right in time before those protests happened. Some of the stuff me and him have talked about is pretty crazy. Just the fact that he was there during that. But everybody knows, and it's a lot of common knowledge, and anybody trying to sweep this under the rug is a part of the problem. But they were absolutely gunning down their citizens, and there's been videos coming out that they are dragging people out of their homes at odd hours that are testing positive for coronavirus. Do you think those people are just going to Chuck E. Cheese? Where do you think they're taking them? You think they're just... No, dude. They are a communist country that runs under a dictatorship, and they are fabricating numbers. Mind you, look this up too. 21 million cell phone tower users are off the grid. Off the grid. That means 21,000. I'm being modest here. 21 million. 21 million, let me clarify. Cell phone users are off the grid in China, which means 21 million people had to say, screw off the grid means I'm not tracked by a cell phone. I no longer use a cell phone. A cell phone is not a part of my life. That's what off the grid means, right? I'm going off the grid and you throw your, what you've seen in a movie, you throw it into a lake or something. 21 million people had to all of a sudden just go, I don't want a cell phone anymore. Forget social media. Forget the whole modern day technology. And they're off the grid. I'm willing to wager that not 21 million people are dead. Maybe that's a really high number of casualties, but I'm willing to wager that their 82,000 number that they're giving us for, and even if it's that, right? 82,000 number that they're giving us for COVID death patients is probably 1,000% higher than that. A lot of people know, and there's a lot of sources coming out, that this was created in the Wuhan province in a lab. Granted, $3.7 million by who? Barack Obama and Tony Fauci. That's where the shit gets crazy, bro.
So, we're definitely going to have a conspiracy podcast. I'm going to say let's save that for episode 3 or 4.
Sure.
But I think this is a good segue because one thing I wanted to kind of talk about, because both you and I are musicians, this is not necessarily our livelihood, but this is definitely our passion, our love that we want to definitely continue at some point. What do you think with COVID-19, what that looks for the future of musicians and artists? Because, I mean, here's one thing that I will say that I think was either late February or early March is when there's a Friday where I saw post after post, band after band, just post like, this tour is canceled, this tour is rescheduled, this tour is postponed, or tour, we have no idea what's going on. And I mean, all the bands that, I love and that I follow, or just, people in the industry that I respect, or friends of mine, in bands, they were all canceling tours, within a week span, hoping for the best that, hey, we're going to reschedule for the summer. It's okay. Stay home, do social distancing, all that good stuff. Fast forward to it is now May, and I've seen, again, tour after tour canceled that were rescheduled for this summer. And, oh, wow, this is some stupid buzzing right here.
A little ground action happening.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Oh, look at that. I think it's when it touches that cord.
There we go.
There we go.
Anyway, so I was curious, what are your thoughts for the future of music when it comes to artists and bands, not including us?
You thinking for like live? Like, asking?
I think both.
Yeah.
Because I've also seen bands like there's, I like the band Trivium. They're a solid band, and they just released a record, I think not even a week ago, including August Burns Red, which is a fantastic record that's come out, I think, within a couple of weeks. And so, within all that chaos and craziness, people, do you think that they're still have that appreciation, love for music, where they're able to support the bands that they love, which in turn, is a business and leads that band to be able to continue to go forward?
I have an interesting perspective on this one. So touring for as long as we have,
Right.
I feel like it's going to be harder than ever for up and coming bands to have good numbers on their sheets. I feel like this is how I feel about true artistry. There is nothing that is going to stop a fan from seeing a band that's impacted their life, or a band that's singing a song that means so much to them. I mean, people are stubborn to a fault, right? And I'm not saying you're stubborn if you support an artist. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's nothing that's going to stop true passion, right? And a true passion to see your favorite artist on something they've inspired you on, or something you're just like, let's use Cardi B, right? For all you Cardi B'ers out there, right? There's nothing that's going to stop you from going to see her if she's really inspired you, if you're really just caught up by her, right? You're going to go see her. But when you see all these guerrilla marketing, Facebook promoting bands that are like, come out and see me every week. I'm playing here at the same bar. I'm going to go there, right? It's going to be so hard for anybody to come there like, oh, there's nothing really magnetizing me to your music. There's nothing really magnetizing me like a major artist that's impacted me.
So let's clarify on that. When you mean by major artists, do you mean like the size of them, or just like how they interact and market with their fans?
The ones that are properly promoting, in my opinion. So the ones that are already on Octane, the ones that aren't using Facebook to promote, the ones that you see. Like I just read an article the other day, right? And actually it's from CNN, which is rare that I ever go there. I just love to see the crap that they come up with sometimes. And I read it, and I go to the bottom of that CNN page, and I see a Wolves at the Gate ad for their album, right?
Yeah.
And it caught me by surprise, right? Well, it was like, whoa, well, I mean, that's weird, right?
Shout out to Nick and Steve for putting that
for sure.
dope record.
Abishai. And so I saw that and I was like, oh man, well, that's a different tactic, right? Because I'm so used to promoting on Facebook for my own project. I'm so used to just using Facebook as the most go to, it's like, oh, it's the only way we can promote, right? And we've been told this by people in the industry too. And so what I feel like is that when the guerrilla marketing non-established bands go to promote their shows, that people are going to be way more hesitant to go see a new band because, oh, there's too much risk now.
Right.
And I think this will wear off in time. But in the beginning, when this goes back to reality, you're going to see a lot of people that are like, well, I just really want to go out because I just want to go out. And then you're going to see a lot of people that are like, nice try, bud, but, like, I got to really like you and really want to hear your music for me now to go out. Now, does that mean that they're not going to stream your stuff? No, there's going to be a lot more streaming because I think a lot of people are going to still get used to this new lifestyle that is the pandemic, right?
So do you think that new bands are just going to have to market themselves differently to get themselves out there, or do you think that it's just going to be just harder overall for a while?
For a little bit, it's going to be harder. I think all new up and coming bands, I think if you're promoting on Facebook, that's your biggest problem right there. I think that there's so much traffic on Facebook, and it's literally a platform that's algorithm is specifically based on literally killing your viewership unless you pay them money, right? And so that's your number one go-to is a platform that you have to pay money just to get some likes, and then you get those likes and you feel justified by that, but it doesn't turn into sales. It's the biggest cash cow, and it's the biggest like insanity thing you could do to like promote your product.
Well, it's definitely gotten more expensive to market a band. I mean, I've seen random ads for bands on YouTube for I'm just putting a song on while I'm working or whatever it is, and I see this random band. I'm like, all right, I'll click on it. But I'm like, how much did they spend on that ad? Are we talking like $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $50,000?
It can happen easily, and we've seen it firsthand, right? And so I think there's going to have to be, people are going to have to really get clever at this. Basically what you're trying to do is manipulate a new human being into coming and seeing your show, and then you're hoping to win them over and they stay a fan for life, right? And it's like, it's just going to be harder than ever for people to do that with this new lifestyle. The new norm is what they call it, right?
Yeah.
And so getting people in the doors like you could, hey man, just come down your local pub and see us. We're swinging through. We're not from your state, I think that's going to be a lot harder to do, just because there's going to be an aftermath fear to this, But the established bands who are established, and then been around since, literally all established bands except like the pop stars and stuff, they've been around for years and years and years, right?
Right, yeah.
And like Skillet's still going, bro. They've been going since 2005 when I first picked up my first Comatose CD, and they're killing it, right? They aren't gonna hurt, But yeah, I think you'll see more streams. You'll see more people giving you a chance for upcoming bands and established bands. On the streaming platforms, there's going to be a lot more, listening to music. If you're trying to sell albums today, sorry. Like that's just a thing of the past at this point. Everything's literally online, and so it's like, yeah, it's just going to be a new thing. But I think people are going to get the one benefit to it, because I know this sounds really negative, but the one benefit to it is people are going to get really clever, and they're going to find out a new maneuver and a new way to get people to access their music. And some kid out there, some band, some label is going to figure it out, and then everyone's going to follow coattails, and then it's going to be on to the next clever one, right?
Which I think is a good thing. I mean, that's what has pushed not only technology but entrepreneurship. I mean, that's how they've done, Facebook, not iTunes, what am I thinking of? Spotify, all those big things, and then everything is starting to move away from Spotify and everything else because, there's that need, and someone has figured out the glitch in the machine of how to get past that. And I think that's going to be one positive thing that we see out of this is, I think someone's going to figure out, how do I promote my band's music? How do I promote other people's music and get another way for people to get it, without having to do the normal ways of like iTunes, streaming, Spotify,
radio.
Yeah, exactly. All that kind of stuff. Well, so what do you think is going to be the accurate timeline? Not accurate timeline. What do you think is going to be an estimate of when bands are going to go back to playing live shows?
I honestly don't see it happening. I think this summer is going to take a huge hit. You're seeing summer festivals left and right, even as far as late June, which was like one up there was like a huge one called Big Ticket, right? And they've postponed, I think, until August or something.
My prediction is I don't think it's going to be big, like everyone's get back to the swing of things until late this winter.
Yeah.
And my thing for that is, one, not to go into conspiracy, but I think that when all the states reopen, not that I'm hoping it happens, I hope it doesn't, but I think there's going to be a resurgence of the virus. And my reason for that
talking about the second wave, you think?
Yeah, second wave, just because, it's pretty known fact, like, for instance, if you keep your kids at home all the time, you let them not play with dirt and anything else, you keep them in a clean room, their immune system is going to go down. So everyone's been sheltering in place. All the immune system is going down. They've been encouraged to, wash their hands all the time and clean everything. Not saying that's a bad thing. Please wash your hands for the love of God. Please do, because I don't know what's behind your hands. And there have been some times I have decided not to shake your hand and just do an elbow bump because I don't know where your hands have been.
For sure.
But due to that, I think there's going to be a resurgence in a second wave of this virus that is going to put everyone at an additional unease. So even if they reschedule things and things start to die down and they do September, October festival, I think you're going to see a half the amount of attendance that they're still going to pull the plug and reschedule for another time. Because one, at the end of the day, we're here to make money. This is a business. Mm-hmm. And I don't blame them if they would do something like that, because they have to be able to put on a big enough show to, one, pay their artists, pay all the production, pay all the event fees and all that kind of stuff.
Confetti fees.
Yeah, the confetti fees. All the liquor fees, all that good stuff that people want to enjoy when they go to a festival, when they go to a show. And I think that we're not going to see much, and I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But at the same time, realistically, I don't think we're going to see much until, come winter come.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I think you'll see what I call the guinea pig tours, right? And I think you'll see those pick up. You'll see these bands try to be the forefront of the new tours, right?
Yep.
So it's like, oh, we're launching a tour. We got word of some new information that'll come up, in the future. And they're going to try to be in front of everybody so they can get those pre-sales and they can get those people in the door, right? And then that's going to be the guinea pig experiment. Because if the second wave is going to happen, it's going to happen in a mosh pit. The hardcore kids ain't going to discriminate. You got COVID, bro? Yeah, here it goes. My favorite part of the song. And so, yeah, you'll see that. And then when people, if the second wave happens or not, then you'll see people after that be like, okay, and then more tours, right? It's gonna, dude, when this pops off and we go back to the new norm or whatever that might be, and people start touring again, you're gonna see an oversaturation of tours. You are gonna have your pick from any band in the world you want to see in droves, and they're all going to be coming through cities near you, and it's going to be oversaturation. It's going to be hard for people to even book because, we got Skillet, Under Oath, and Trivium coming in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, because everyone's trying to catch up.
Not that they're Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday bands, but that's because you got Megadeth on Friday, and you got Metallica who now wants to come back on Saturday, right? Yeah. And so it's just going to be crazy. It's going to be great for these venues. Venues are going to resurge.
Yeah.
And
it's going to be great for them. I think it's going to be great, honestly, for the economy. And a lot of people think, music isn't that big a deal. I think it is. And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many people will fly in to come see their favorite band. They'll stay at a decent hotel. They'll eat at the local spot. And then they'll go to the venue. They'll spend money on alcohol or food or dude, soda prices are insane. So
right.
I think that'll be a good thing. But at the same time, it's going to happen in droves, and then it'll slowly start tapering off because everyone will have caught up. And everyone's trying to catch up on their expenses. I know a lot of bands are like, man, that tour, this spring was their meal ticket. Like, that's how they make money to make it through maybe the summer or make it through the fall, which is, great that they can do stuff like that, but now they're hurting. So it's like,
I think of this, if you're a musician, right, and you're not on a Skillet level and you're not on an Under Oath level, right, I think it's a weird thing, but this is at an even if you are in those bands, right, this is an all-time new to start developing a side hustle, right? Because we've
Agreed.
we've all experienced that this can be taken away. Even if you're established, even if you're not, this can be taken away, and now we can't tour because the government says so. So what are you doing, bro? Did you save? I mean, not a lot of people did. I hope you did, right?
Yeah.
But if you didn't, now it's like, I just saw, God rest his soul, but it's like, oh, I just saw Jim Morrison, and he delivered me a pizza. And it's like, dude, don't be surprised if you see that, right? Because this is such a privilege in occupation that we do, which is get to tour the world, make money to do it, and get out there and impact lives. But if you're not smart with your money, then you better get smart with something called a side hustle, right? Or you're gonna be homeless, right?
I agree. I mean, you'll know that the first thing I've always said is diversify.
Yeah.
I think the days of hoping that you make money just from touring music is over, unless you've gotten to past a certain level. When you've hit that glass ceiling, you go past that. I think you can. Again, I've never had that kind of success, so I can't attest to it. I just know that it's like I don't want to rely on something that can fluctuate.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing for my family, that I'm making sure I have, plan B, C, D, E, all the way to Z, hopefully, even if it's the stupidest thing. If plan Z is delivering pizzas and I got that option open, that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Heck no.
But making sure that you've got something in place, what you're in this music industry, is super, super important. And I think that's one thing that people are going to learn from this COVID-19 is, come next year, come the rest of the year, what if this happens again? God forbid it does happen.
Well, just like you said, right? What if the second wave comes? And what they've said about the second wave, right, is, the second wave can be way more catastrophic than the first wave, right? So if that comes back, we're shut down for even longer, right?
Exactly.
And you're like, I got these tours planned, and then they get canceled again, and it's like this revolving door of pandemic, right? And it's like, what are you doing? You just waiting for music to come back, or are you going to be so embarrassed to go get yourself a job at Papa John's because your label owner told you that it's embarrassing that you do that? Because real talk, homie, right? And so you're like, well, I don't listen to you, and I'm going to go out there and deliver pizzas because you know what? You don't pay my bills. I do, right? So,
and we're about to do Real Talk Homie, but to add to that, I mean, you've got musicians who, it's when they're married or they're with someone who, has their own job and is able to, help pay for stuff. There's no telling what this COVID-19 is going to do to that. What if you're a touring musician and then your wife is like maybe a flight attendant or something else that's considered an essential thing? Mm-hmm. Stuff starts dying out. We know that flights have started dying down. I'm sure they've already started grounding planes, laying off or putting you on furlough if you're a flight attendant or you work something at the airport.
Yeah,
I know my brother. My brother-in-law. He works for an airport here in DFW. And he's only working like 2 days a week.
Really?
So he's furloughed. He's not furloughed, but he's only working 2 days a week, but he's getting full-time pay. And they've guaranteed that till the end of May, but they haven't said anything about the rest of the thing. So what happens past that? The second wave comes in. People who are considered essential, they started to start, laying them off, putting them on furlough because they're just not making money. I mean, granted, the field that I work in is essential, and most of our clients are, but what happens when their clients who are not essential stop paying them? They stop paying their workers, they stop paying us. I stop getting money to, provide for my family. Same thing with everyone else in this situation. So, I mean, that's one thing to consider is like, I can't let that be the only source of income. That's why I'm figuring out what can I plan for the future.
Right.
What can I do if this happens to happen again? Or it clears up. But then 5 years later, some other stupid nonsense comes along, and then I have to kind of think it the same way.
Well, I think that really reprioritized everyone to, just like in 9/11, and I grant you I was 11 years old at the time. But one thing I do remember was how comfortable we were, how TSA checks were nothing as we know today. I can remember walking through a airport at like 10 years old, and I got a pocket knife for like a Christmas present, right? And I didn't realize it was in my bag because I'm 10 years old, right? Obviously, I'm not going to stab anybody because I was a good little country kid. And I get in, and no one checked me, right? It was like a weird thing, but I can remember how lax it was at the age of 10 years old was my point. Mm-hmm. And then we changed things, right? We changed now we know TSA is damn near getting cavity searched, bro, before you get on that plane, you know? and it's now it's the new norm. So with that, and after this, the new norm, what we're going to see is going to be a lot of weird things that we're going to have to get used to. And so that's, I think there's what we knew, what we started this conversation off was do you remember February? I think what we remember in February before all this started is going to be our last remembrance of the old America.
I agree.
Because the new norm that we're set for, with all this misinformation, with all this conflicting information, we are headed for, I mean, dude, we're already on the brink, in my opinion. I'm going to state my opinion one more time, my opinion. I think we're already on the brink of a civil war, right? In my opinion, if Trump got assassinated tomorrow, this whole thing blows up, bro. This whole thing goes off because we're so divided as a nation where it's like a two-party system has absolutely done this to us. I'm just going to say my political affiliation. I hate the two-party system. The two-party system is absolutely done nothing but cause division. It's like, what side are you on? No, I'm a free thinker. What side are you on? Well, I do my own research. What side are you on? Is it CNN or Fox News? It's literally become the two-party system, right? That's why I make so many jokes, and I will continue to make so many jokes about me watching Fox News and CNN. It's because it's literally the both ends of the spectrum, right? But
you're not. Well, the thing is, and I don't want to go too far into this because we still got other stuff to talk about. But everyone puts you in a certain bubble, and if you don't think in either of those two bubbles, you don't make sense.
Yeah, if you support one view, it means you're for the other view, right? But the one thing I'm noticing more than ever is that people are like, whatever Trump says, whatever Nancy Pelosi says, the opposite of that is the answer. That right there is so dumb. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, Nancy Pelosi wants this, Trump wants this. So whatever the opposite of what they want now becomes what we should fight for. And it's like, no, you are not free thinking. You are such a victim of the two-party system so much.
And to clarify that this isn't just some views of two white dudes in a room just having a podcast. To clarify,
I'm Viking, bro.
Patrick is Viking. I'm half white and I'm half African. My dad is from Tanzania, a country in Africa.
Yeah, and my dad's from Wisconsin.
That's a country that no one even knows about.
Yeah,
we're
bro.
Like, what is Wisconsin besides the cheese up there?
What's up there? You tell me.
So anyway, I'm the son of an immigrant, and my dad came here the legal way. He joined the military, and he started on his business, a very successful business. And people assume that if you have a certain skin color, if you have a certain look, if you have a certain persona about you, you think a certain way. I don't believe in either the left or the right side. I just believe in views. I've got certain things I believe in, certain things I don't. I disagree with people. I agree with people. I think it's healthy to have, discussion and agree and sometimes disagree. And I will say this, my wife and I sometimes a lot do not agree on certain political aspects. But at the end of the day, we don't hate each other. We're still married. We're not divorced. We don't sleep in separate beds because, she's like, well, why do you think about this? And I'm like, well, why do you think that about that?
And right there, dude, right there, somebody is going to go, oh my God, they're unequally yoked because they don't share the same political affiliations. They don't share the same viewpoints. So how could they even call themselves husband and wife? Dude, that is such a bullshit ass thing that we hear so much, right? But it's absolutely possible because in my stance with my wife, we have conflicting views on everything. The greatest part about that, just like the greatest part about you and your wife, is that you get to have a healthy debate because you love each other, right? But healthy debates don't really happen anymore because you don't really love the person that you're going after. It really goes to name calling, and then it's like, okay, at the end of this Twitter debate, what do you do when you get done with it? You're like, oh my God, I did it. I got through to Carl on Twitter, and I called him all these awful names and it worked, and he blocked me. And it's like, cool, that didn't help a thing.
Man, anytime people want to get that into it, I'm like, listen, I don't have time
when it goes
for this.
to name calling, right?
name calling, and they are absolutely sure that you are absolutely wrong. I'm like, let's just talk. Let's just find something else to talk about. Because obviously, it's stupid for us as human beings. Like, just like I've always said, treat each other with respect. Mm-hmm. Be a human.
And no
being
matter
to
what your
someone.
platform is, I don't care if you have 1 million likes on Facebook. I don't care if you have 10 on Facebook. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole, right? And it does. And if you
you're not
use
wrong.
your platform to bully, you're even more, right? And if you're like, oh, I don't hang out with so and so because he's only got 1,000 likes, it's gonna hurt my 10,000 on Instagram. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, I've heard that stuff before. I can't take a picture with him. Why? Because he doesn't have enough followers. It's like, bro, that's the day and age we live in, and it's sad. And
Yeah.
and I'm not even. I'm just gonna say it. It happens in the Christian industry. We've seen it, right? In the Christian industry, right, where. And just so people know, the Christian industry is viewed as, oh, these are just a bunch of good boys that believe in the word, and they're just nothing more than youth group kids with eyeliner on, right? And it's like, dude, it's such a demeaning thing.
You
It's like,
should not look to a certain person because they have a certain religious belief for your answer.
yeah,
This is why it should always be, do you have a relationship with God, and how is it? Because if you look to Joe Blow or, Mr. Henry at, whatever church for your answer, or some guy who's in a band that is supposed to be a Christian, that's fine. That's great. No, I'm glad he's an inspiration to you. But do not look that to be your absolutely, sole identity.
yeah, because then you go, oh my God, that guy is, he's on
Because
that platform.
That person will fail you.
Right, because he's human.
He's
right?
human.
So it's
Exactly.
like, and this is going to tie into something that I told Micah in our pre-production meeting. I really wanted to talk about the Christian industry has a big problem, and that big problem is the perception of perfection.
So let's go and do it. We're going to move into our segment, and we're going to add some other segments later on. But for right now, this is one that we talked about, and I was like, we should do this. This is our segment called Real Talk, homie. So,
Real talk, homie.
With that, let's go ahead and take it off, Patrick.
Well, okay, so my first, and this is going to be my favorite portion because this is just open and raw Pat here. So I'm going to get into the perception of perfection. This is episode 1, so I have 2 segments to this Real Talk, homie. But I'm going to start with my favorite one. And my favorite one for Real Talk, homie is going to be the hearts of weak men. I have noticed this more than ever with my appearance, with Micah's appearance, with my singer's appearance, with people that are muscular or just walk in confidence. They immediately walk into a room and then the insecurity just flourishes. So I walked into a restaurant to pick up an order the other day, and I was wearing a shirt that made a guy just insecure. I guess it was too tight. And he goes, oh, man, you're making me feel bad about myself. What are you compensating? I got to see the car you're driving. But this is just...
That's what he said?
Bro, absolutely. He's like, I bet you drive a... Actually, I drive a Honda Fit 2007. But he gave me
He's
too
like,
much...
bro, you drive a
Bro, he gave me-
2012
Yeah, he gave me-
Dodge Challenger with the balls hanging out in the back.
Dude, he gave me too much credit. He's like, I bet you drive a Ford F-150 that's jacked up on 22s and stuff like that with a smoker and just polluting the ozone. He went all that far, and just literally I'm watching a guy just go, I'm fat, and it's like, and then because he was, overweight, right? And so he is so attacked by just my presence, I didn't have to open my mouth. But this happens worldwide. This has happened in Nashville to me. This has happened anywhere I go. And it's not just me. I see this happen to people on social media. If you walk with confidence, speak with confidence, and you just happen to be in good shape, the hearts of weak men, the hearts of out-of-shape men cannot deal with that. It's an alpha competition. And so they start attacking you verbally and just getting out their sadness, right? And then, God forbid, if these people have a platform that's way better than yours, right? And they have a couple 100,000 likes on Facebook, and I'm being oddly specific because there's a dickhead in Nashville that does this a lot. And he likes to talk crap about people that are valuing their bodies. And he likes to talk crap about people that are confident because he doesn't have control over them, right? And so he takes shots at you that aren't they're just petty. And this is nothing more than an insecure man that sees everything he wants but doesn't want to get it because he doesn't have the motivation and the work ethic that took you to that point. So he attacks you personally to try to get your confidence away, to try to break you down so you won't be better than him because he can't live with that. That shit right there is so cancerous to humanity. It is so cancerous to men. It is why men can fight at the drop of a dime. It's why a man wears an American Fighter shirt and walks into a bar and all the dudes are like, oh, okay, what's up with this guy? Bro, it's a shirt. Why don't you calm down and play some pool or something, right? Dude, I see this all over and it pisses me off so much, right? And it's like, well, how about you get to know that guy before you just insecurely attack him because you wish you were better, you know?
Yeah.
And you're trying to compare yourself with a guy you don't know. And so I'm just going to attack him to feel better about myself. There's literally, and if you're a man listening to this, there's literally nothing more pathetic that you could do than just attack a dude that comes into any setting that you're in and he's, I'm sorry, everything that you want to be, or looks like a movie star because he actually cares about his body, or maybe he's not all these things physically and he just talks with confidence because he's not letting anybody. He's confident in his skin, and that still irks you because you're like, well, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, well,
You
let's
know?
clarify. It's not just a physical aspect. It's a persona of confidence, because you can have.
But most of the times, it's physical too.
Sure. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think that confidence is something that is underplayed and pushed down in society for men, because if you are super confident, you've got that. I hate using this word, but like alpha type, because it's not just because there's two sides. There's where you're confident, you know what you want to do, and you can be a human being to someone. You got the other side where they just want to be a jackass to everyone, and they want to overcompensate. And I think that guys like that have ruined it for guys like you and I and everyone too. We're confident. We're able to admit when we're wrong. It's not a big deal. We're allowed to have emotions and stuff like that. But you've got a lot of the other guys that they've overdone that so much that I think it's just put a bad taste in everyone's mouth. That's what they assume. And now people can't be adults and just like, okay, well, let me just take someone at my interaction with them versus just they're walking the door and that's my persona of them.
Yeah.
You walk in the door, dude's got, cut off sleeves, he's got, jack shoulders or whatever it is. Or he just walks in, he's not meaning to walk with a swagger or whatever it is. He's just walking because he's just going to order a burger, bro.
Exactly. But now everyone's attacked him on the way up there, and then they see a tribal tattoo. And why do you think tribal tattoos trigger people so much? Huh? I mean, you would never go up to Mark.
Stereotypes.
You would never go up to Mark Hunt and be like, "Yo, bro, that tribal tattoo's gay." You know, you're like, no way, because you know who he is, right? But you'll go up to another dude that's got the tribal tattoo on, not knowing his walk of life, not knowing his training, not knowing that he's from New Zealand, and you'll just go up there and cast your judgment on him because he looks cool, and you can't deal with it. And dude, it's really such a cancerous thing. It irks me. I'm a victim of it all the time, and so I have such a low tolerance with it. So my real talk, homie, is the hearts of weak men. If you got a weak heart, if you do this stuff, you're cancerous and you need to work on yourself. Or you get what you put in, homie. Real talk.
And I'll do that before we end that segment. Because that's one of the good things about Pat and I is we've got different viewpoints and we balance each other out. And I think that's one thing is definitely take a good look in the mirror as a man. Because one, you need to make sure, like, one, if you ever want to have a family, if you want to have a wife, if you want to get a girlfriend, bro, you got to make sure that that's who you are confident that they are going to want to be with. Women want to feel safe. They want to feel a lot of things, and I'm not going to speak for women for what all they want. But I know that don't just take a good look in the mirror and figure out what you want to do. I think I'm sure everyone might have heard that. That's thunder. Is that
thunder?
That's thunder. Yeah.
Dude, that's so rad.
In Texas, it's April and May is when we have all our huge storms, but it's all good. Anyway, so what I was saying is, I believe that people act the way that they align themselves with. So if you align yourselves with people that are cancerous, that are, take advantage of you and just are not good for your well-being, that's how you act. I don't think that if you are associating yourself with friends and guys that are uplifting, that are positive, that want you to be confident in yourself, no matter, where you're at in life, what you look like or everything like that, that's kind of how you're going to present yourself. So, for instance, if I'm associating myself with friends that are always complaining about stuff, that always stick at home, that are living with their parents, that are nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, if you're 30,
bro, it's 2020. Everyone lives with their parents. I'm just kidding.
If you're not doing any stuff, if you're still working that dead end job and you've got no drive, that's the people who you're hanging out with. That's how you're going to act. And you're going to take their persona and you're going to put that on the guy that's walking in the door. They're like, oh, that dude's just, he's wearing that shirt or he's got that air of confidence or whatever. And you're going to throw that negativity and hate towards that guy.
It's a great point.
So take a look at who you're hanging out with, who you're associating with. One of the greatest, I'm sure everyone knows the saying, but my youth pastor, I don't know if I probably shouldn't mention him on the podcast because be like, bro, why'd you do that?
Make up a name.
Jaime used to say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Oh,
and that is no true words that I've ever heard. If you associate with people that bring you down and act a certain way, that's how you're going to present yourself. If you instead, if you associate with friends that are positive, uplifting, that are constantly, they have that confidence. They can be different people. They can be, different body shapes, different attitudes. But if they have that confidence, that general sense of positive, like, we're going to get through this. I'm not going to let someone bring me down just because they have a certain comment. That's how you're going to present yourselves with.
Yeah, I think it comes down to influence, right? If you're influenced by a bunch of weak-hearted men, you're going to be weak-hearted.
Exactly.
So if you hang out with people that inspire you, drive you to be better and be the best version of yourself, you're going to follow suit, And that's exactly why that saying is losers. You surround yourself with losers, you'll be a loser. You surround yourself with successful people, you'll be successful. And there's a reason, because one, they can help you along the way. But if they are negative and they bring that negative energy, then they can absolutely kill you along the way.
Exactly.
In everything that you've tried to do. And then they'll bring you down because why? Misery loves company. So if you hang out with miserable people, they're never going to want to see you succeed. And if you do, they'll stab you in the back because misery loves company. Success loves success.
Exactly. And here's my last thing, my PSA to all y'all confident guys that are not a-holes, but you're confident and you know what's going on. Take a chance on someone who's maybe lashing out a little bit. Chances are it's someone who's had a bad experience with an actual a-hole that doesn't give a crap about anyone, and they've never had anyone to reach out. I've had a really good opportunity over the last few years. I wouldn't say to mentor people because that's a weird thing. I don't want to say I'm above someone. I've just been in unique situations with other guys that I've been able to share my experience with them. And I've tried my best to do the same thing, like be really positive with people, even if I'm not friends with them. Just be positive, be uplifting, have that confidence. Like, at some point, you have to put yourself in that mindset. You're either going to try to do something to be a better person, or you're going to continue to live in the misery that you've been doing and associate with other people because misery loves company.
Well, and to confirm that, just off of my own personal testimony, in my entire 20s, I just partied them away. I didn't hang out with an elite group of friends. I hung out with people that made me worse, and I stayed loyal to them because I didn't want to leave them because I felt pity for them. Well, I ended up leaving them at 30. You get married and life changes. And now I surround myself with people that I think that I know inspire me. Like, I wouldn't be doing this podcast with Micah if I didn't think he was the person I think he is. And so I surround myself with those people, and they've helped me become a better man. They've made me more confident in my skin because in my 20s and stuff I wasn't. And I would suppress my thoughts, and I wouldn't speak with confidence, and I walked around as basically this just scared human being. So I just want to instill that confidence is not a bad thing to have. Being muscular or putting investment and time investment into your body is never going to be a bad thing. You're never going to regret that. And so don't let anybody deter you on your motivation or your goals, because everyone that doesn't want to see you succeed, put them in the loser category, because the ones that do want to see you succeed are the true ones that love you and the true ones that need you, that you need to surround yourself with.
Yeah, and again, it's not just a body thing, because again, I agree with you on all those points, but at the same time, I think the biggest thing that scares people and intimidates people is the confidence. So here's a good example. I've known Pat since 2017. I met Pat when I was on tour with the band Spoken. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. I'm sure some of you guys have. And the first show we had together was a show in Chicago. It was at that used to be a MMA club that they turned into a church. They had a
remember dude, that? Oh my gosh, I have a great memory and I forgot that. That's amazing. Yeah. Wow.
So that was the first show that I met Pat. So again, this is 2017. So
it had to have been 2017.
Yeah. 3-4 years ago, something like that. I wasn't as I was definitely still as confident as I am now, but I was definitely not. I definitely didn't have the beard I have now. I wasn't quite as muscular. I was a kid on tour with Spoken. And I wasn't even a kid. I was 20.
Dude, your hair was so short. I remember that.
It wasn't quite as short. So I definitely looked a lot different. Anyway, so Pat walks in. He's got his long hair. He's a dude that, he's jacked. But you know what? Yeah, I wasn't intimidated at all. I wasn't like, oh, this dude looks like he's going to be a total jackass. He's going to be an a-hole. I was like, all right, it's a guy.
That's a guy.
What band is he in? Opener? Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out if we'll talk to him or not.
And what did I do? I talked to you that whole night.
Yeah. We talked up, and here we are. We're in the band together 3. Is that my math is
3 years
wrong.
later?
3 years later, and we're really, really good friends right now. And it's that my point is, like, don't judge someone based on their appearance or anything along those lines. I guarantee you, if you spend 20-30 seconds talking with someone, you'll find out how they actually are.
And I just think that my eyes are just open to it so much more, because from the sidelines, I've seen it happen to people. I've seen it happen to my singer Aaron. I've seen it happen to you. Micah is way more jacked than when I first met him. The dude's just put it on somehow. So I gotta up my game now. No, I'm just kidding. That's me being...
It's a competition.
It's me being judgmental.
I'm winning so far.
Yeah, douchebag. I'm just kidding. And so I've just seen it so much. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it in the industry. And it's just become this one thing that I didn't know existed as much. But it's become so glorified now. And I've seen it. It's ruined a lot of my personal relationships with people that I thought were amazing. And I've seen the damage that it causes, right? And all this damage is so easily preventable. Why? If you have one conversation with that person, you put down all that pride and you just get to know this person, and you don't just see him as flesh and blood walking. You see him as the spirit inside of themselves.
Exactly.
Because now you get to talk and you get to look them in the eye and see who they are, right? And so you look at everything face value, you're never going to get anywhere in this life. If you look inward and you get to know, and it takes initiative, and you try that, I'm telling you, you're going to flourish, and you get to know more about people, and you're not going to look at people like this pandemic has given us no choice. Well, given some people a choice, but literally cornered us to look at other people like they're a threat. And this is the same exact thing, right? You're insecure when you see somebody walk up to you in a mask, because now you see them as a threat, and you have no way really to go with that, because you're like, oh, I don't have COVID. Well, then you could be asymptomatic, right? And that's like the mind blocker right there. It's like no one's safe, because you could always be, symptomatic to the whole thing. It's the same exact thing with a guy that speaks with confidence and walks, with a chiseled physique, is you're like, oh, you could be cool, but you're probably a douchebag.
Let's clarify, we're not complaining because like that irritates us, like, oh, we're jack dudes, or we're doing all this. Blah,
I'm
blah,
not
blah.
even that jack compared to a lot of dudes in this world, bro.
You've been gaining some pounds. I've been wanting to tell you.
I'm out.
This is like basically to boil it down, like have a conversation and be a human with people. I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories when I was when I was touring with different bands of I've heard stories from someone about such and so in this band and they're a total D-bag. And then I end up meeting that person and they're actually pretty nice. But if I listen to something and let me equal it this way. With you talking to someone and them telling you a story about so and so in a band or whatever it is, and you getting that persona in your mind, it's the same thing when someone walks in and your mind automatically tells you, "Hey, this is already X, Y, and Z about that person." It's the exact same thing.
Without getting to know them, you just judge their identity.
Yeah. So I, especially in this music industry, which is so cutthroat, no matter what genre we're in, whether it's the Christian CCM or whatever or contemporary, whatever you want to use, you need to just take them as face value of having that talk with them. Otherwise, you'll spend your entire time, not only in the music industry, but anywhere else, one, going to your head because you're thinking so many bad things about people. It gives you a bad taste in your mouth. It puts you a bad vibe, and that's all you start thinking. You start thinking negative all the time, Instead, why don't you change your mindset and just think about, let me just talk to that person. Let me just have a hollow persona about that person because I don't know them at all. When I met Pat for the first time, I could have thought so many things just because the way he walked, the way he looked, the way he talked with the promoter, maybe whoever he was talking with. Instead, let me take it at face value of me talking with him. So that's the exact same approach I have taken with everyone else I've talked to in the industry. I've stopped listening to people's stories and people great, they're great stories, I'm sure. But at the same time, it could have been a bad day that person had, a bad experience with someone. There's been a lot of those where I've talked to someone and they're like, yeah, man, that was a really crappy day. I was going through this and I just did not want to have a good attitude about anything. And so I lashed out and talked to someone. Mm-hmm. So instead, someone takes that, this dude's, this and that, based on what he looks like, based on what he does and all that kind of stuff. And then you take that, it's the exact same thing. You start using it on one person, then you start doing it on 10 other people. Yeah. Then eventually that's how you view life. Mm-hmm. That you start using everyone in their own personas, their own individualities, their own what's the word? I can't even think of the word right now. But that's how you start viewing people.
Yeah, well, that's why that saying is you can literally speak into life stuff. Now, a lot of people take that comment as, oh, I can speak things into life. Well, I'm going to have $1 million tomorrow. And it's like, no, bro.
I hope so.
Yeah. What I mean by you can speak it into existence is if you have a narrative of somebody and you have made that their identity, then you've cornered yourself and that person into fitting that narrative.
Exactly.
So if you walk through a door and you wearing an American Fighter shirt and some buckled jeans, and I just immediately go, this guy looks like somebody I want to fight. This guy looks like somebody that just a womanizer. All the stereotypes, right? Then you've cornered yourself to that narrative, and so you spoke that to yourself in your mind into existence. Now there's no way out of that unless that person proves you wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Transfer of energy there. So we've talked a lot about that. Micah, what's your real talk portion, bro?
I really didn't have one. I was hoping that you were going to carry this.
Bro, I can elaborate on that all day long.
You know what? And it's something I've been saying the entire
It's such a sad
podcast,
concept.
and it'll probably be really short. Just be human out there, man. There's a lot of things that we don't understand, not only about this virus, but how to experience life. We've got no idea when the economy is going to be actually reopened to a point where it's somewhat of a normalcy. We don't know when in the music industry we're going to go back to work. We haven't played a show since December when we played Christmas Rock Night in Germany, which is one of the most badass festivals I've ever played. We were supposed to play January, that got canceled. Tour after tour has gotten canceled the last few months. And I've just heard the last couple of days that a lot of other big tours that were rescheduled for the summer have gone canceled. One of the bands here locally, which I really like, and I'm still hopefully gonna meet one of these days. Fit for a King, they canceled their Dark Skies tour.
Yeah, I just saw that.
And it's not rescheduled. They just don't know when things are to come back to normal.
Well, it's smart. It's probably smart right now not to reschedule because everyone's kind of, like I said previously, everyone's kind of waiting for these guinea pig tours, you know? And then when they see that an August date went through and some band finished a 30-date tour in August, then you're going to see the woodwork of promoters.
Right.
And oversaturation of crazy amounts of concerts. You're almost going to have to just tour in Australia or like some place far away if you're an American band.
So all that to say, there's a lot of uncertainty going around, and there's a lot of emotions really red hot right now because they don't know what's going to happen, you know, regarding their job. I mean, that stimulus check came through, and I'm sure that helped a lot of people, but I'm also knowing that that's a drop in the bucket depending on where you're at in the U.S.
Well, I think it, just to tie into that stimulus portion, I think it put a lot of people in perspective that, man, I didn't really manage my money, that I'm depending on a government check to float me through right now. And there's a lot of people that live outside of their means, you know, and we all know this. There's a lot of you I guarantee you, the listener, you know somebody that makes a certain set income, but they live outside of those memes and they have memes.
That's the only thing carrying them right now.
The memes, bro. I'm sure there's people making tons of money off of memes, but they live outside of their means, and so they drive a car they probably shouldn't be buying because they don't make enough. And so when this pandemic hit, now they're waiting on this government check that a lot of people, mind you, have not received. You know, and there's people still waiting on it. There's people still waiting on their unemployment, and you're now depending on the government like you've never have before. Not all people, because there's a lot of people that just lived off the government their whole life, but these people that have worked their butts off, and now they're waiting on these government checks to float them through. This has officially put you in a perspective of money management. Like, your money management previous to this pandemic was not right. Mine wasn't. I know that for sure. And it's reprioritized my life. It's reprioritized the way that I do things now. I stay driven. I don't look for anything else to take my minds off distractions because I know that this is a serious time and I got to pull up my big boy pants and support my family. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not sure if it's, you know, a real talk on me, like, perspective, but I'm like, be human out there, guys. I'm going an extra mile to everyone I interact with to just try and smile, to be way more polite, to just see how their day is going. I was picking up parts for work today, and I totally forgot that Dallas County you have to have a mask, otherwise you'll get issued a fine. I thought that was just hearsay. I didn't realize it was a real thing. And they wouldn't let me in the office to pick up the parts for my job. They made me paperwork outside, and the security guard there was pretty irritated at first. And I was like, listen, I am so sorry. It's not a big deal. What do I need to do to fix this? And immediately her demeanor changed, like, okay, hang on. Let me go and give you the paperwork on a clipboard. Just fill it outside. I'm sorry I can't let you in. I'm like, listen, it's not that big a deal. I get it.
Yeah.
But to someone else, you know, what if you got told that and you just started getting blown up? You got irritated. Well, now you've just, like, pissed off that person, and they're going to have a crappy rest of the day because they had a crappy an experience with a crappy human being.
Transfer of energy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everywhere I've been going, I'm trying my best to, and this is going to bring into the religious aspect, which I don't care. We're going to do it.
Bro, we say it.
You know, Jesus was probably the perfect example of being kind and respectful to someone. And even if with all my faults, my issues that I've got, if I can continue to keep doing that to people, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what people need sometimes. I guarantee you, if everyone started, you know, going an extra mile during this pandemic of being respectful to someone, being nice, and just asking something simple as, hey, man, hey, Pat, how's your day going? You know, just stuff like that.
It can mean a world of difference.
It can mean a world to someone. Yeah. And people don't understand that. All they want to do is live in their bubble of, like, I just got to worry about me and myself. And it's like, there's a lot of other people. There's a lot of parts of the machine that are going so that you can do and live the life you're doing.
I think the most important thing somebody needs to know, building off of what you're saying, is that the news you're watching is not reality. It does not identify everybody in your community. It does not identify everybody in your nation. What you're watching is something that they are making a profit off of because of your ratings and your outrage culture. Okay, so you need to remind yourself that the news I'm watching does not identify my community. It does not identify the world. It identifies a very small portion that they are glorifying. So when you walk out those doors and you just watched a whole bit of news that was negative with one good story separating in between, and you walk out those doors, don't take that energy with you, because that energy you will receive back tenfold.
Exactly. We're all here trying to make it as humans. It doesn't matter, how much you make, what you do. Everyone is struggling in some form or fashion. I guarantee you there is probably some guy out there who's, made lots of money doing whatever and now taking a hit. And now he's like, how do I pay for groceries next week?
Right. I mean,
you got people in the low the lower income that they're like, I don't know if my family's going to be in a house next week because of rents coming in.
Well, think about maybe you can answer this question, but have you seen, I know I have in my area, but have you seen any restaurants close down here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those people
Part of it
going
in Fort Worth is due to just like there's an area off of West 7th near Montgomery Plaza that restaurants are always closing and reopening. But in general consensus, especially in Fort Worth, man, restaurants are struggling. And this is a good example. A couple of days ago, my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, we were going to get fajitas together with on the border, and they were waiting for like a couple hours, and they had placed their order at 4, got there at 5 when it was supposed to be ready, had them ready. It was like 5:30, 5:45. You got everyone getting pissed off at the person at the front, like one of their orders. I'm like, and my sister-in-law was like, guys, they have no control over that. They can't control, what's going on in the kitchen. They're trying their best to make sure your order is, preferred. They're probably making like $10, $12 an hour. And you want to yell at this person and make this day as crappy as possible for this person.
Yeah, exactly. When
you
you're
don't
that
get
person,
anything out of it.
Well, yeah, when you're that person screaming at them just because you're hungry, you need to realize the damage you're doing to that person, but also the damage that you're doing to yourself. Literally, no one's looking at you, a customer in that restaurant, a cook in there going, wow, that guy, I applaud him. Everyone's looking at you going, this is a first-grade asshole. These are the people we love to go against. And if I see you in there, I'm going to defend what I think is right. And you're not right in your entitlement to a person that's working his butt off with a line outside the door to
Who's
yell at them.
thankful to have a job?
Exactly.
I'm sure that restaurant has already cut back 50 to 75% of that staff, and that person happened to get lucky and is thankful as hell that they have a job right now that they can hopefully pay their rent and their groceries. You want to complain and yell at that person when guaranteed, I bet you you're one of those people that have bought an excessive amount of meat that's just sitting in your fridge,
Exactly,
freezer at home, and you could go home and do that.
Yeah.
And come to find out afterwards that some person at On the Border Corporate had accidentally turned off an option. Like there's normally, I think during non-pandemic hours, whatever that is, they only allow so many orders so that way they don't get overwhelmed and they can actually fulfill them. Mm-hmm. Someone turned it off because they're only doing orders to go. And apparently they were like 60 pages behind. Pages of orders, not just 60 orders behind, 60 pages of orders.
Bro, I'm just going to put myself on just the chopping block here. I got put in my place by an amazing woman. Her name was Cassandra, and she was a fellow Instacarter, right? And, I was doing DoorDash this day. And I go to Outback Steakhouse, and I've probably been waiting there 30 minutes, and I'm like complaining. And so this Cassandra woman walks out from Outback Steakhouse, and she's like, oh, so sorry, sir. Your order's probably going to take another half hour. And I go, wow, I've already been waiting. And I was so put in my place with this. I was like, wow, I cannot believe I've been waiting 30 minutes. I've already been waiting 30 minutes already. I got to wait another 30 minutes. And she looks right at me, dude, and she goes, yeah, sorry, there's a pandemic. And bro, I immediately felt like you're Patrick, wow, you stooped to a new low here. Did you not realize that people are working their butts off? Did you just think that they're just sitting in there going, ha, this order's ready, and I'm just looking at it and wasting his time out there? No, you need to realize, Patrick, and I'm talking to myself, these people in there working their butts off, and then that you just threw shade to this nice woman that just walked out as a representative of Outback Steakhouse, and you're complaining about your 30 minutes when she's probably got way more problems, kids at home that she's, who knows, right? But I'm going, oh, I'm entitled. I've already waited 30 minutes. She's like, sorry, there's a pandemic. Dude, put me in my place, bro. And I'm proud to say I learned from that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what we need more of. Like, be a human out there. Like, again, like Miss Cassandra said, there is a pandemic out there if you guys aren't aware of.
This isn't normal, people.
You guys eating at a restaurant or going anywhere else is a privilege.
Exactly.
The grocery stores are still open. You can make a meal out of something. It may not be necessary. Like, listen, last month, okay, for you guys who don't know, I love cooking from scratch.
He's all right.
Homemade pasta. Yeah, I'm all right.
He's good.
All right. And I'm like, that's little thing that's irked me. Like, there's a lot of stuff I can't get that I normally get, so I'm having to do just basic meals, whatever it is, just chicken and rice or spaghetti from the
yeah,
carton.
but can we all just say that your chicken and rice is a little bit better than just my chicken and rice, bro? You know what I'm saying? I make chicken and rice, it's just chicken and rice. You make chicken and rice with Micah, it's like, bro, it's like...
I do reduction sauce. Put a little sauce, little sprinkle here and there, and it tastes good.
Micah eats my chicken and rice. He's like, where's the salt? And I was like, oh, you can put salt on that?
So it's like, eating at a restaurant it's a privilege right now. And I'm glad that they can be able to stay open to make money and stay afloat. So my point is, like, be human. If you're pissed off that you're having to wait 2 hours, just go home and make something. It's not that hard. You can make eggs and literally a minute flat. If you're taking longer, you got some issues, and come see me, okay?
Can we all agree that if you're door dashing, which people are making money doing, it's a job, and you're complaining just like I did, and I'll wear this crown happily. Can we all agree that if you're complaining and you're making money doing DoorDash when people are laid off, people are dying out there, people are in hospitals fighting for their lives, people are living in fear due to conflicting information, that you're an asshole if you're walking around with a bad attitude while you have a job and you're making money. Can we all agree on that?
I 100% agree.
Okay, and then further, can we all agree that if you get plastic surgery right now, while there's people in the hospital fighting for their lives with COVID, that you're also an asshole?
I'm raising my hat a little bit because I'm like, that one, those places are still open, and two, that's your thought right now.
It's like,
bro, I got to get these injections quick, bro.
I need to get these cheeks tightened up, and it's like, well, I'm fighting for this patient's life over here, and it's like, no, it's like I got a little tighten here, and it's like, wow, yeah, dude, I read articles on this, man. That stuff's still happening, and I don't want to name the state, California, that it would be happening in, but there's a sense of entitlement that needed to go anyway. But now it's carried over in a pandemic where we should all be united. And if you're entitled right now, dude, you're not helping a thing, and you're part of the problem.
I think that's one thing. Like, people in the essential workforce have one. There's two sides to that. One, they're like people complaining that they're essential, like that they can't help that. That's just the card they were dealt. Two, they are super thankful. I mean, my job is considered an essential. So is my wife. So is a lot of my friends that they're considered essential. We are super thankful. If I didn't have my job, I would not be able to pay my mortgage right now. I would not be able to put food on the table. I don't know what I would do. I'm not going to be able to carry my car payments, my insurance, anything else. I'm not going to be able to buy dog food for my dog Quill. And then you've got other friends of mine that are not considered essential. And I'm like, man, how are you guys doing? I've got a buddy who he works in the meat industry, supplying certain types of meat to restaurants. And it's like, I am sure they are hurting so bad right now because the restaurant business is declined. They're not selling to grocery stores or anything else. It's just solely restaurants. And I'm like, I texted him the other day and I was like, man, how are you doing? Like, is there anything I can help with? To the point where, and I didn't say this because men are proud. We don't like to get help from people unless we ask for it.
It's that insecurity thing.
Like, listen, man, I don't make a lot of money. I make enough that I'm okay, and I'm providing for my family. But if I need to, spend some dollars and help out with groceries or something, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of attitude that we need to have to people, especially if you got a job and you've got your finances in order, or even if you can spare, dude, $10 goes a long ways if you know how to spend it.
let's love our neighbor and let's practice that, because you got New York, or no, I'm sorry, the state of California, where the governor was paying people to snitch on their neighbors for.
That's not even just California. There's a lot of states.
Is that happening more?
Especially
that's
up
so
north.
bad.
Yeah,
it's so bad. And so okay, let's just generalize this. You have governors out there, or just politicians out there, rewarding you to snitch on your neighbor. That is so disgusting. All that leads to, it's like, okay, snitches get stitches. We know this to be true, right? But now snitches get rewards. And what have you done? Now you've made everyone look at everyone. Oh my God, they're watching me now. Oh my God, they got coronavirus. Oh my God, if they don't have coronavirus and they're not snitching on me, they might be asymptomatic. Right? And then now it just makes you look at everyone. This has caused complete division, and we need to open our eyes to it, or we will crumble as a nation. Mind you, all empires fall. Don't forget that.
Yeah, and it's not to say that there's not a lot of people taking a advantage.
Bro, I'm fired up. Sorry. So sorry.
And it's not to say there's not people who are taking advantage of the system and doing things and putting other people at risk. But at the same time, I don't think that you should reward someone for hearsay,
for snitching on their neighbor.
Well, not only that, it's like you don't know. No one really knows unless you're in that person's house, in that person's face, in that person's car, what's going on at that moment.
Well, yeah.
It's hearsay. It's like what we talked about earlier. It's persona. You see an image of someone, you start thinking things because of the situation they're in or whatever the heck that is.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but it's not only that, right? Now it gives you a reward to report on people, right? Dude, that's like such a dirty move.
And that's all
because how bad are
too.
Well, yeah, but also it's taking advantage of a situation. How bad are people hurting for money right now? And so now I'm going to give them a money incentive reward to do something evil, which is snitch on somebody. Now, if you see somebody committing a crime, bro, okay, obviously you have a civic duty. You see somebody hanging out with their family, and I'm going to get $100 and I'm going to call the cops on them and watch them get arrested. I'm sorry, bro. You deserve to be on the front lines, of all that comes your way. It does nothing but divide this nation. This nation has been completely divided due to media, due to a two-party system where it almost forces you to pick sides. And if you vote independent, then your vote just doesn't almost count because it doesn't go that way, right? So now it's like we got to pick a side. That's why football has become so debated and so hateful. Just in fan talks, right? Because you pick a team, and then you love that team so much that you become passionate. So if anybody talks about them, well, it's like, I'm gonna kill this dude then. And then we've done that politically, and we've done that in our own neighborhoods when we accept a payment from a governor that's willing to pay you to snitch on your neighbor just to get political gain. Right? Yeah. Because what does it do that government? Anything, right? Okay, so I called in. And snitched on my neighbor.
It's a huge use of resources. Because here's the thing. You call in someone, they've got to send I'm sure a police officer, someone in law enforcement, that has to take them from actual, time away from actual crimes that may or may not be happening.
We must think murders are a thing of the past, right?
Yeah, exactly. They have to go investigate that. They have to spend, I'm sure, a few hours figuring out if there's a real case. If not, and not only that, that puts that officer and his family at risk if he's got a family. So they have to go investigate that. They have to make sure they've got all the masks and gloves. Hopefully they don't catch something. I'm sure like 8 to 9 times out of 10, it's something innocent. Then they have to come back. They have to go do something. Then that family has a bad vibe or persona of the person who reported them. Guaranteed they're going to find out. And it's just going to spread from house to house, to street. And again, guys, we've been at this since mid-February almost, late February. And it's not showing signs of stopping anytime soon. Yeah, we're opening up the economy right now, but, this is a test thing. Our governor here in Texas, he said that we're going to use these 2 weeks of reopenment at 25% capacity to study and see how things happen. If it starts to increase the rate of mortality and, infected cases, excuse me, he may restrict those things back. So, yeah.
What's crazy is like with the 25% maximum occupancy in my area, dude, you have lines out the door, right? And so now people are like, I'm the 24% goes right before you, and then you become the 25%. So now you have to wait till that person leaves, and now it forces you to stand next to people and next to people. But it is a good experiment because the biggest fear of this whole thing is we have seen the numbers decrease. So the biggest fear of this whole thing is now this new second wave, right? Mm-hmm. And that's exactly ties into the question you asked, what do you think touring's going to be like after this?
Right.
Everyone's going to be fearful of that second wave. It's going to take a huge commitment for you to go back out when the new norm comes in. But now this 25% occupancy, and so my political beliefs on this, or not political, but my personal opinion on this is that I really don't believe in the second wave because they've fabricated so many numbers on this first wave that they were trying to make up for it. So what's going to stop for them to fabricate the second wave numbers, right? They want this second wave to happen because when there's a new disease, there's profit in it. And you guys have to start recognizing that.
There's going to be a lot of stuff. We're
just getting started.
I think we've hit almost the 2 hour mark. Pat, I've had a lot of fun with this. This has been a blast doing this
I can't
first
believe
episode.
This is the first episode.
First episode of the Guilty Party podcast.
Guilty Party. We're damned if we do and damned if we don't.
That's right. If you guys like this, comment on our social media. We're gonna have one. In fact, we do have one for Instagram.
And if you don't like this, comment on it, and please, because we know no matter what angle we go at, it's gonna piss people off, and some people are gonna agree with it. That's why we called it the Guilty Party Podcast.
And if you guys have listened to the end of this 2 hour mark, hats off to you. Thank you so much. We're just two guys that just want to talk about stuff on our hearts. I think the main thing we're going to kind of try to keep this concise so it's not all over the place is right now kind of like life experiences, current events, and then our current time in the music industry, and we might go into some other stuff.
So this was a test round for us. We know this is the first podcast. We're going to get better as we go, so we would love some constructive criticism, some feedback back. We're going to have do we already have an email for them?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Our email is wearetheguiltyparty@gmail.com. We're going to be uploading this both on YouTube and I think mainly we're going to be using Anchor. We'll be moving to iTunes and Spotify after our third episode. So once we do that,
and if you have anything that you want to input to add to conversations, heck, if you want to be a guest on this, hit us up, and if we can make it work, we'll make it work. We love open and honest conversations. And one thing that we want to say, and I'm speaking for us both here, is we're not above learning. We are coming at you from our angle. I'm coming at you from my personal opinion, Micah too. And if there's an ability to learn and find out truths, we're all about it. That's what this is all about.
Exactly. So again, I hope you guys had a great time. I appreciate that you guys have made it to our mark. We're going to experiment with a lot of different things. This is our first podcast ever. Thank you, Pat, to joining me on this crazy endeavor.
Bro, it was a pleasure. Pleasure, bro.
So again, guys, thank you for listening to the Guilty Party podcast, and we will see you in episode number 2. Thank you, guys.
Late.